If you've been watching my channel, I'm sure you've heard of the saying, the elites have to tell us what they're doing to us. And we also live in an information age where sometimes we're just flooded with so much information, it can be really hard to even have the mental capacity to dive deeply into one subject because our attention is so spread out these days. But also, there are so many sources. A single person can't possibly really sift through all of them to really become an expert on something. Expertise in an area requires dedication and intense study over the course of years. And I am not saying I'm an expert in any means in astrology, but I am somebody who's been studying astrology since I was 16. So that is 22 years now. And I honestly had an interest in it before I was 16. And I want to talk about my evolution with astrology, why I trust astrology so much, because astrology isn't what most people think. And most people are using astrology in the wrong way and don't even know it. So let's get into it. So I first discovered astrology when I was most likely in high school. So when I was old enough to start reading magazines and newspapers. And back then, all I knew that I was a Libra sun, and I thought astrology was just that. So most people, or maybe not most people, a lot of people I talk to, especially the ones that are kind of like, I don't know about astrology, I think it's a bunch of bull, I can understand why people think that, because they're likely not educated and they likely have not had experiences that have proved to them that there's really something to this. And there are so many reasons why people may not identify with their sun sign for the majority of sun sign traits. So I want to attempt to cover some of that today, because I think astrology is a really, really valuable tool for helping us stay in touch with the cosmic flow of the universe, the natural cycles of the universe. And like I said in my hook, the elites don't want you to know certain things. They want us confused. And we've even talked about how they've changed the entire calendar on this channel back in, the 1500s? I think it was the 1500s that they changed into the Gregorian calendar, and then now the 13th planet is coming out. It's been hidden and all that, and that just confuses us even more. And I'm not even going to get into officious, I don't even know if I said that right now, because that's a whole different topic in itself. I'm going to stick to what I know, which is Western astrology, and again, share my evolution of it and how it can be helpful for you. And I'll also show you common mistakes that people use, which may be throwing them off of their intended path, maybe leading to confusion, and maybe is not helping you get the true value out of astrology that you can get out of it. So, like I said, when most people get started with astrology, they're looking at their sun sign. So your sun sign is your soul's purpose, what your soul consciously decided to explore in this lifetime. So every single month, the sun stays in the same quadrant of the sky. So the sky is split into 12 zodiac signs in the Western system, and the sun stays in a sign for about 30 days. The most fascinating thing I find about astrology is that if you really understand the archetypes, it could really help you get SHIT done in your life. So for example, we start the astrology, at least astrology starts with Aries, which is the beginning of the Zodiac season. So that's March and April, end of March and end of April. And Aries season is all about new beginnings. And it's so interesting because Aries also aligns with springtime. So the trees are starting to get life again. The flowers are starting to grow. It's also a time when we tend to feel energized and ready to start something new. So I would not be teaching any system that didn't actually make sense to me or didn't work in my life. So for me personally, I always like to look back at what I've already experienced and then compare it with whatever astrology says because I'm skeptical of most things. So that's how I really started learning astrology. But when I look back at my life, usually what I'm doing in March, April is starting something new. So whether that is a new haircut, like cough, cough, a mullet, or if it's starting a YouTube channel, starting a podcast, which was something I did a couple Aprils ago. Got the new haircut this April, changed my whole look, and also really started to get into my YouTube channel and content for that back in April of this year, even though I didn't really dive into the channel deeply until May. But it was a concept and something that I had mentally decided I wanted to start this year. I wanted to communicate and share knowledge, and hence that's what I'm doing now. So if we know the themes of each archetype, so we know that Aries is the time of year where we're starting something new, recreating ourselves and our identity perhaps, or coming up with a whole new plan for ourselves. Then we move into Taurus season. Aries was a fire sign, Taurus is an earth sign. So now we're taking the fiery creation and whatever we came up with during Aries season, and in Taurus season it's about rooting it, giving it roots in the earth. So since Taurus is also fixed energy, it's about building something. So Taurus also rules finances and resources. So it makes sense, logical sense to me, why in end of April, end of May, we're starting to lay down the tracks for whatever idea we started back in March and April. So then from Taurus, we have Gemini, which is the mind. So that's when we also start to reach out to community and share our ideas with people, venture out to local neighborhoods and think to ourselves, hey, this is something we're sharing with other people. What kind of team do I want to surround myself with? And what else do I need to learn about whatever it is that I recently started? So just to give you an idea of like how this played out in my life, how my YouTube channel really started taking off was April, end of March was the conception of it in my mind, and realizing that I needed to stick to one platform if I ever wanted to make any progress in my life, especially getting off of short-term content, because trying to share this kind of stuff on Instagram and TikTok and the short form platforms when nobody has the attention to sit here, it's really difficult to make any strides, whether or not you're trying to sell your services or you're just trying to connect with people by sharing ideas. YouTube is a wonderful platform for that. And then I was thinking how much time I spent on YouTube, or spent previously. I don't really watch videos anymore, but back before I was a creator, I was a consumer of YouTube and spent like 12 hours a day on there, whether it was listening to affirmations, meditations, sound frequencies, or just watching other creators and, having it on in the background when I'm making jewelry or doing whatever, or driving or whatever. So people really listen to YouTube. So like I said, conception of the idea, Aries season. Now, keeping up with the daily posts of that, filming a video every day, is in Taurus season. That's Taurus season work. That's taking the physical action in the material world. Then Gemini is when the community, the tribe starts to come in, when you really get into the meat of sharing your ideas with people and finding people that you want to connect with. So that's how it has played out for me so far. And that is end of April, Gemini is end of May to end of June. And then from Gemini, we go into Cancer. So Cancer season is a water sign, and this is our first emotional purging of the year. And it's also a time when we're really looking at the inner child and learning how to reparent ourselves, and it's a time to nurture ourselves. So water signs are always kind of like a break from the chaos of the other seasons. And we can also be very moody and emotional during water season months, especially if you already have a lot of water energy in your chart. I'm trying to remember what I did. I think I was holding, I forget what I did that month. That might have just been when I really started diving deep into Gate and the Gateway tapes, and it was more about what happened in my childhood. That's right, because I was really diving into the Gate program and Gemini and Cancer season. So then after Cancer season, after we purge those emotions physically from our body, then we get into the next fire sign, which is Leo. That's August. That is when, end of July and to the end of August. And it's also when we cross the threshold of the Lionsgate portal. The Lionsgate portal is 8/8, 8 is abundance, 8 is changing directions, and 8 is karma. So it's a really good luck portal for a lot of people. However, if you don't know about astrology and you don't know about energy harvesting, which I have a whole video about, because I think that was when Ozzy Osbourne passed. He passed away right before the 8/8 portal this year. And I just thought it was so interesting to see how social media was abuzz, praising the King of Darkness and all this stuff. And a lot of people, nothing against Ozzy or anything like that, but I'm just saying there was so much King of Darkness and satanic type energy or imagery in the media, plus people talking like, he's the King of Darkness. No, he was a good guy. He was a Christian. It was just an act. So people, again, not understanding how the elite or these people who are doing rituals behind the scenes so they can harvest our energy for their purposes. It's not a surprise to me that his passing away just so happened to be around this time when all of America can focus on it and be like, oh, we miss him, oh, we're mourning together. So rather than focusing on your personal success and what you want to manifest for the year, you're busy crying and you're busy arguing with all these other people. So how that played out for me, that was the first time my channel, I think it was when I first had a viral video on my channel, and then it was when my channel got officially monetized. It was during Leo season. So then after Leo season, after we set the second intentions of the fire sign, then we have Virgo, another earth sign. So we're rooting something into the earth again. And Virgo is all about systems and daily routines, but also physical health. So Virgo helps us, since we already purged our emotions during Cancer season, and then we started something new in Leo, Virgo may be the first sign of some health issues that may be coming up, or it's just helping you lay out the system so you can be successful in what you rooted in or that you brought into your reality during Leo, during the Lionsgate energy portal. So then after Virgo, we have Libra. Libra is the first sign of the second part of the Zodiac, and this is where our experience shifts from internal development and what we personally are setting out to do in the life to now our experiences become about other people during the second half of the year. So Libra season is where we start to shift friendships, relationships, business partnerships around. We start to get serious about these contacts and how they're helping us move forward or how they might be hurting us. So relationships can shift during this time. New ones can be created. Libra is an air sign, so it's all about discussing and sharing ideas. And Libra is also about balance and justice and harmony. So it's typically a time where people are also feeling very loving and harmonious. So if you're watching my video in real time, we just had Scorpio season. Scorpio is the second opportunity we get to purge our emotions throughout the year. But Scorpio is also about how we're sharing spaces with other people. So not only is Scorpio about inner shadow work, death, rebirth, transformation, it's also kind of asking us to look at the relationships around us, those people we share resources with, energetic spaces with, intimate relationships with. How are they adding to our lives or subtracting from it? What is coming up inside of us? What are those people showing us? Because they're acting as a mirror for what needs to be purged in us. And Scorpio can also bring up a lot of suspicion and jealousy and an interest in your own psyche and psychological development. And it's interesting to see the topics of my channel during Scorpio season, because it was all the things I was inspired to talk about have been things like honeypots and handlers. So people who have psychological control over you. That's what I spent a lot of time during that season breaking down on my channel. So now we're in Sagittarius season. Sagittarian season is the third fire sign. So fire signs are all about ideas, and Sagittarius is, I hate to say the highest evolution, but it is an evolution of our inner selves that is built off of the Aries fire energy, like the first start of something new, and the Leo part of us that took that out to the stage. And now Sagittarius is like, how do we get this out to your entire world? How do we take this abroad? How do we get this across the globe? How do we get this across states? So it's sharing that thing that you created, that you started with people outside of your current neighborhood. And Sagittarius is also the opposite of Gemini. So Gemini is your local community. Sagittarius is the wider community, the wider world. And it's also about ideology. And I think that's why I've been so interested in talking about cults this month during Sagittarius season, because it's also rules our belief system. So it's a time for us to look into those belief systems and ask ourselves, what beliefs did I create, which I should have figured out during Scorpio season because I was being asked to emotionally purge something. And now Sagittarius is coming, and Sagittarius is like, okay, why do you have the beliefs that you have? You know, you should have gone through some nice crying, physical illness, breakups, whatever happened during Scorpio, but you should be coming out the phoenix, like you just rose from the ashes and you're ready to propel yourself forward. That is the purpose of this. However, since the elites, the theys of the world, and I mean that as in shadowy governments and organizations, those theys, they don't want you to know this stuff. So Scorpio season is also a great time to energy harvest, especially on Halloween, October 31st, the Day of the Dead. So they can also use those portals to their advantage, again, to energy harvest and to send honeypots into your life and watch you fall for the trap. So those of us who are not able to take personal accountability, those of us who want to remain the victim, can get lost in these traps during Scorpio season. When you continuously blame other people, you're missing the point, because we are supposed to learn why we were the gatekeeper for those people in the first place. So what was going on inside of us that created these scenarios. And now Sagittarius is like, okay, now let's look at the belief systems, okay? And what belief systems need to change. Side note, if you need help with that, I have literal worksheets for you that are listed as pay what you can on my in the description of every single video. It's a 21-day habits tracker and your fear inventory worksheets, and they just help you get to the bottom of beliefs that are keeping you stuck. So I put them at pay what you can so anyone can afford them. So of course, love it when you tip me for them or whatever, because I do put a lot of work into this stuff. But also I understand not everyone can afford these resources, and I think everybody should have them. So thank you for listening to that. But anyways, once we get to the bottom of these belief systems, it's in preparation for something big. And that something big is Capricorn season, because Capricorn is the final earth sign of the Zodiac. January. So interesting, because January 1st is usually when people are winding down from the overindulgence of Sagittarius season, which, by the way, is super common because we've got the holidays, people eating a lot, people, socializing with family. That's very much Jupiter energy, kind of slothful at times and like gregarious and loud and wants to socialize with people, but it also wants to overdo it with the holiday food and drink. And then Capricorn season is way more sober and serious. Similar to the dynamic we experience when we shift from Leo to Virgo and from Aries to Taurus. It's just like, okay, I got a little feisty when I was in Aries, but now let's reel it in. I'm a little more reserved when I'm in Taurus. And same with Leo. Leo's like, woohoo, like I'm on the stage, watch me, biatch. And then Virgo is like, no, we have to, be analytical about this. Let's look at all the details. Let's write it down, reel it in. So now Capricorn is doing the same thing to that Sagittarian energy. It's like, nah, you can't go on like this forever. It's time to get serious. You're really serious, because Capricorn is called the midheaven in your chart. This is the most important point in our charts, because this is our mission on Earth. This is what we've been working towards all year. So whatever started in Aries season, March, April, this is part of that cycle. So this is, Aries, Taurus, or sorry, I can't do math right now, but, basically all these months later, right? Is that, how many months is that? I'm sorry, I'm trying not, is that like 8 months later? But almost 8 months later. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that this is what we have been working up towards since we started something new in April. So this could be the point in your life where your career starts to take off, where you get famous, where you have a viral video, where you get that promotion that you've been working towards. And it can also be the part where you get your energy harvested because you don't understand how these energetic systems are, quietly controlling everything from behind the scenes. So it can also be a time of energy harvesting, because if you have a Capricorn in your life, God loved them, but the shadow side of Capricorn can be somebody who's the Saturn energy. So somebody who's very controlling, stern, can be a dictator, can be a negative father figure. Saturn rules the father. It can bring up relationships with men and father figures and authority figures. So if you're not tapped into the lessons that these astrology cycles are teaching you, can you see how it might be easy for your energy to get harvested by these systems, by the system of astrology? So again, that's why I always say, bring it back to you. Do that dang worksheet, that personal inventory, bring it back to you, so you can stop projecting on other people and you can actually take control of your life and live it the way you want to. Because once we get through Capricorn, we have either somebody try to steal our success from us because we're not paying attention, or if we're in control of our energy and we're understanding of the cycles that are happening and we're like, all right, this is my time to rise. This is my time to apply for that promotion. This is my time to put myself out there, to really just keep doing what I came to Earth to do. And that's also, a reason why a lot of people stop their drinking, because we get serious in Capricorn season. So hopefully you stick to your New Year's resolutions, because the energy is really good for your business, for your work, for whatever you have your heart set on to take off at that time. So then after Capricorn, we've got the final air sign, which is Aquarius. And Aquarius is how we affect communities beyond ours. So this is the humanitarians of the world, the humanitarian causes. So you may receive some kind of success during your Capricorn transit, but Aquarian is like, okay, now what groups do you want to be associated with? Who can you work with where you get these ideas out to more people? So this is also, Aquarian energy is also very future oriented. So it's 2 signs before the next Aries cycle begins. So it's right at the end of the Zodiac cycle, and it's designed to help you, really mingle with the movers and the shakers and to look ahead to the future. And Aquarian energy is so fun because it's the higher mind. So oftentimes during Aquarius season, we can get zapped with ideas, and these ideas can be very future oriented. I think back to myself, for example, and what I was doing last Aquarius season. I had all these ideas for my Starletta show, and then I didn't do anything with them for like months. But when I look back at the life, I'm like, that's awesome, because now during this cycle that I've been in, 11 months later, I can use all that footage that I've already filmed and I can make something really cool with it. So sometimes we are shown glimpses of the future. We get the creative insight for some kind of project, the idea to reach out to somebody, the idea to connect with somebody, and it doesn't make sense at the time. You may get down on yourself and be like, well, I never did anything with that. Why did I never share the music I wrote? Why did I never follow up with that one person? But then some months pass, and when the stars align again and destiny strikes, all of a sudden you think back to what you did during Aquarian season when that bolt of lightning was coming down from the heavens, inspiring you with an amazing idea. Now you can pull from that memory bank and say, yes, okay, that was what that was all for. I did all the work in Aquarius season. Now I can, apply it during whatever season I'm in now. So then the final sign of the Zodiac is Pisces. Now this is the time of the year where a lot of people get tired. We may be spacey, daydreamy, not necessarily want to be around people, or if we, again, have been ignoring the lessons of the Zodiac, ignoring our personal development, blaming everybody around us, not understanding how energy harvesting systems are at play and how they use this stuff against us, then you might be a person who's either trying to get lost in escapism, so now you're like back on the sauce and you're like smoking all day every day because you don't want to deal with reality, or the universe comes around and says, you're going to get sick. Not just a cold, but since you've been ignoring all the inner work for all these months, let's give you COVID or something, and you're going to be bedridden for 5 days. It's all going to hit you now because it's time to deal with your shit, son. I've been there, okay? Speaking from real experience, but you don't have to get sick either, right? So if we're consciously aware of these cycles and what's happening and what's the purpose of Pisces, we can get ahead of this stuff. That's why I love teaching astrology and why I love following it, because I don't like being sick. I've already had those lessons shown to me the hard way, the way that shocks you awake because you weren't paying attention to your intuition. But now that I know how to trust my intuition, it's like not only do those hard experiences ultimately teach us how to tap into it. Once we've learned the lesson, we don't have to repeat it. So you don't have to keep putting yourself in these situations where you're going to get sick again because you ignored yourself during Scorpio season or whatever, and now your body's just trying to catch up with you and it's forcing you to be still. How many times have you been overdoing it with like smoking or drinking or overeating, and then you get really sick and you can't do anything for like 5 days, you can't breathe, and then you're like, I'm going to quit smoking because I didn't like that pain. So sometimes the universe has to use official heavy pain on us when we are just kind of like ignoring and pushing our own limits. So that's where astrology kind of keeps us in line, keeps us on track. And I always say your soul was very conscious about the themes that you decided to explore in this lifetime. So now that we've gone through the wheel of the Zodiac and how it affects us all collectively each season, Pisces also helps us surrender, it helps us release. So then we're in preparation for the next rotation around the sun, which is the next year, which is the next Aries season. So that cycle then again repeats itself. So as I was saying in the beginning, most people really are aware of their sun sign, and that's about it, unless you've gone a step deeper and you know about your natal chart. So then you've probably been exploring your sun, your moon, your rising, your Venus, your Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto signs, Lilith, Chiron, and some of the asteroids. This is all very important. But for those people who have only been, using their sun sign, that's where we're missing a lot of it, because the sun is simply the themes that you've chosen in this lifetime. And this is a fun fact that not a lot of people know about astrology. Your soul stays in the same sign for about 30 years, but progressed signs in astrology are what look at the progression of your soul. So if you live 30 years, 60 years, 90 years, you're going to progress. If you only live till 60, you may only progress like 2 or 3 sun signs. And again, this also depends on what degree points you are born in. So if you're born at the very last degree point of Sagittarius, you're going to shift into your first sun sign progression when you're like 3 years old or very young. So you may not remember your Sagittarius experiences early on. And if you're born at the very beginning of Sagittarius, for example, then you won't switch and progress or evolve into your first sun sign switch until your late 20s or early 30s. So some people may progress their sun early and go through 3 or 4 suns in their life. Some may only have 3, some may only have 2. So it depends on your personal cycle, your degree points, and what your soul decided to do in this lifetime. So go back through all those archetypes I just explained, and that gives you a little bit of information about what themes your soul specifically decided to explore while you're here, and you'll understand how each theme builds on itself. So if I've chosen an Aries incarnation for my sun, for example, I'm learning how to individuate myself. I'm learning how to take the lead. I'm learning how to be assertive without being aggressive. I'm learning how to be active without being angry. I'm learning how to channel that passion into something worthwhile instead of just being mad at anyone who looks at me the wrong way. And then as I get older, those early lessons that I experienced with Aries are now going to be reeled in a little bit with the Taurus energy, which is asking me to get grounded and to stick to something, because Taurus is fixed energy. And then by the time I'm older, then the lessons I've learned when my soul was in progressed Taurus now are going to progress into Gemini. So you see how those lessons build on each other, and now Gemini might be about connecting with other people and sharing with your community, or making an impact with your community in some way. So I could go through all the signs, but if you want me to in another video, I totally will. But just to kind of keep going in the vein that I wanted to in this conversation, the sun sign, most people, as I was saying, over-identify with the sun sign. So that could be possibly one reason why people don't really understand astrology or don't identify with their sun sign too much, because astrology is so complex. Not only do we have the progressed sun, so our insides are changing every 30 years, or depending on the degree point, could change when you're 7, could change when you're 15, could change when you're any age, right? So you may still somewhat identify with your core sun sign, but at some point you're going to start adapting the traits and the grounding of these other influences. That's why you can't use these generic relationship calculators and say, do Taurus and Capricorn go well together? Well, maybe, but is that Taurus, how old is that Taurus? What degree point was he born under? What is his moon sign? And the same thing for Capricorn. So if you're really trying to get an accurate perception of relationship compatibility, you can't be generic with astrology. And oftentimes that's one of the traps of the matrix, of the system, that keeps you stuck in these cycles. And I remember being a young person who really put so much weight and emphasis on astrology. Like, I'm a Libra and my boyfriend is a Leo. Does that mean we're compatible together? And it's like, basically, if I wanted it to be a yes, I could find enough articles that said, yes, they'd be good together. And then if I, was feeling insecure about the relationship, then sometimes it would be like, oh, well, they're negative. Or some days it would just be like, I'm looking at this, it says we're supposed to be compatible, but how come we're not? How come we're fighting? So astrology in that way, when used without knowledge or the full picture of it, it can keep us trapped in lower vibrational relationships, all under the guise of, well, my horoscope told me so. So this is a negative way to use astrology. This is not what I teach. So now let's cover the natal chart, because this is another area where people tend to over-identify with their personal natal chart signs, okay? And I've also fallen for this trap myself. You not only have a sun sign, but you also have a moon sign, which rules your emotions. You have Mercury, which controls how you download information, how you share information, how you communicate with people, and also the subjects that you are even interested in. Then we have your Mars sign, which is how you take action. It can also be your sexuality, how you express that about yourself. Somebody who has a Mars sign in Libra, for example, when that's in opposition to Mars, is going to be more passive aggressive and have a harder time. So they could be in Aries and a lot of other areas, which is typically somebody who's like, I'm ready to go, let's take action, I'll jump first. But if you've got your Mars in Libra, you're going to be the kind of Aries who's passive aggressive, because you're working that part out in yourself. And again, that's why I love to look at transits and progressions in astrology, even when I'm doing natal chart readings, because that just tells you the aspect that you had at birth, but it's not telling you the timelines, when that stuff is going to shift and how that might look when it shifts. So not only do we have the Mars sign, we have the Venus sign, which is who we love and how we express our own feminine nature. Then we have outer planets, Jupiter, our philosophies about life, where we're growing and expanding. Saturn, limitations, past life karma, relationship with authority and father figures. Uranus, the higher mind, shocking changes, chaos. Neptune, what are we dissolving in this lifetime? What generational curses are you breaking? Pluto, where are we transforming? Where are we changing? What are we rebirthing? All right, so we have, every one of us is made up of all 12 of those aspects. And then we have asteroids, which give us even more insight into our personality. What are we healing? Then we look at Chiron. The spirit asteroid is one that not a lot of people know about, but they say if you're born in a late degree point of spirit asteroid, that you are an old soul in this world. So if you want to look up yours, you can go to, I think it's on astroseek.com. They'll give you a free chart. You can, or really just Google any astrology chart and look up your spirit asteroid to figure out what degree points you're at. And you can find some more insight into your own personal destiny from that as well. And then we have Lilith, which is what we disown in ourselves. It's where we're supposed to provoke people. So mine is in Leo. I just find that interesting because when I was younger, I was afraid to be on stage. I was always a little shy. And now here I am on YouTube sharing my business and not being afraid to poke the bear a little bit. And that is very much a Lilith energy that's here to shock people awake. Maybe not shock them awake, but it's supposed to provoke people into an awakening. So since I talk about polarizing things here, there's always the guy in the comments that's like, I'm like, okay, just move on, go to another page. But that's definitely what Lilith can do. And if you're a feminine energy with that Lilith energy, you could be the dark feminine for a male. So somebody he doesn't know why he's attracted to, that he can't stay away from, but ultimately the Lilith energy is trying to get him to wake up to the parts about himself that he is disowning. And Lilith is also the energy that cannot be contained by outside forces, and it won't be controlled. So that's another good aspect to know about yourself. So all of that being said, your natal chart is important because it gives you insight into all those different parts of your psyche, or shall I say ulcers, since we're on the subject of astrology and programming and what the elites don't want you to know. I mean, could astrology be considered another way to look at our own altars? Yes, absolutely. And I find that it helps us do so in a more empowering way. I don't think astrology by any means, in the way that I've used it and experienced it, is disempowering at all. If anything, it helps me make sense of the cycles in my life and the programs I'm operating on. Because the other thing we have to realize about astrology is there's higher polarities and lower polarities. There's a positive and there's a negative. So again, using Aries as an example, the downside of Aries is quick to anger and aggression because it's ruled by Mars. The positive side of Aries is that it's going to jump in the water first. It's going to get the ball rolling. It's going to take action when other people don't take action. So you want an Aries on your side if there's ever an apocalypse. Well, let's just hope it's an evolved Aries that's not going to get mad and try to have a fist fight with everybody. Let's hope it's the evolved Aries that's going to say, all right, I'm going to protect my tribe and I'm going to go first where other people are afraid to venture. So every sign has lower and higher polarities, and that's also part of the conditioning or whatever that we're experiencing in this lifetime. We're learning about the polarities of our own energy and our own soul's lessons that we decided as a soul, I believe, when we came to this earth, because we're all, your soul was very intentional about the exact moment that you were birthed, that you were born, because it sets the stage for your entire rotation around the zodiac. So you can look at your natal chart. This is what people get wrong. They look at the natal chart and it's like, okay, now I know so much about myself. It's so helpful because we still have that inside of us, but it doesn't stop there. And then what people might end up doing, they just keep over-identifying with that sign for years and years and years because they never venture past learning more than that, or they never have a professional reading, or they don't do further studying on their own to learn about transiting planets and progressed planets and things like that. So they stay stuck in those labels. They stay stuck in those boxes. I'm a Sagittarius rising. So if I keep calling myself a Sagittarius rising without understanding that that is a temporary label, it's just something that is kind of guiding me through right now, but still leaving wiggle room to understand that eventually my soul is going to progress into this, and then it's going to progress into that. So it's a way, all that to say, labels can be empowering or disempowering. And I think it does us a disservice when we over-identify with the signs for too long. And again, it can be another way to keep us stuck in toxic cycles if we're over-identifying with astrology and using that to make all of our decisions. So I know that this sounds kind of contradicting because I feel like what I'm teaching is transiting and progressions are that's it. That's what we, that's the ultimate truth. For me, it is, but that doesn't have to be your truth. So I don't ever want anybody to think that just because I believe something is my ultimate truth, A, that I'm not going to change my mind at some point when more information is revealed, and B, that you have to believe what I believe just because you're on this channel or whatever. I think people can agree to disagree. This is for the people who were drawn to astrology like I was, and this is to help you understand how deep you can go with it and what you can reveal, what you can learn about yourself, but also so that it can't be used against you, so that you're not the person on the internet who's getting stuck in the identity on these Zodiac horoscope channels. So you're not over-identifying with Libra horoscopes and you're making life decisions based on that because you're looking for answers. You would get more answers if you were to, for example, figure out your progressed signs. So either do the research and Google free progress chart, Google what are my current transits, take an astrology class, book a reading with me. I love to go over this stuff with you guys. That's all the stuff I cover in my relationship. But you can also, if you don't have the funds, Google this stuff. That is how I learned. I learned for free on Google. So Google. You will find the resources that you need to. I've given you the carrot. So take that carrot and go on your journey and learn as much as you want about astrology and transiting signs, how they work, and progressions, and watch how accurate they can be. The other cool thing about progressions is if I get a reading done on my progress chart today, 5 years from now, it's going to be completely different. So it's something that you can continue to grow and evolve with and learn from. And you can also look back in time and you can say, well, was it accurate? What was I doing in 2024 of August? I can find a site like Astrology that does progress charts, and I could do my progressions for August of 2024 just to see what I was doing then. And then if I'm, well versed in astrology and I know what the different signs mean. So part of looking this stuff up is you do have to know how to interpret it. You do need to understand the lessons of each zodiac sign and how they interact with each other. But essentially, I could look at that chart and say, okay, I had a Virgo moon, progressed moon. So that phase, that makes sense why I had some health issues, because Virgo is going to bring up health stuff and daily routines. Then I can go back 5 years if I want. I can say, oh, I was in a Leo phase. No wonder I was always like doing stage stuff and trying to do, get my stand-up career launched. So me personally, when I look back at like when I was younger and when I was in a Virgo phase, how that manifested for me, or Virgo and Cancer, those would have been right around the same window. That's when all my eating disorder stuff showed its ugly head when I was a kid, because I was trying to emotionally eat. Moon in Cancer, very common to emotionally eat if your moon is in progressed Cancer. And then Virgo, obsession about my body and body dysmorphia, because Virgo is very analytical. A Virgo that doesn't have a healthy outlet is going to obsess over minor details. So it is so crazy to look back at my 18-year-old self, understand that all my emotional eating was likely coming from the fact that I was being very much influenced by the moon on my soul's personal development through a progressed moon in Cancer, which is focused on food, self-nurturing. So I was nurturing myself with food. And then when I progressed from Cancer to Leo, then it was all about, you have to be beautiful. You have to be the most beautiful. You can't be ugly. And there's competition with other girls in high school now. And there's competition with your own sister. Like, competition was such a theme when I was in progressed Leo. And this all happened like in high school. And it happened, right after Cancer, which was all June, July. Yeah, which was all about emotional eating. I had bad feelings about myself because I was gaining weight during that time. And then Leo came, then it's like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Leo wants to be the best. Leo wants to be, can be competitive with other people. And then by the time you get back to Virgo, it's like, I'm overanalyzing every single detail about myself. I am OCD about things, etc. So astrology can also be a tool to look back in the past, to kind of test it out for yourself and say, is this accurate? Well, let's see. And it can help us jump ahead to the future and know what we might expect. We don't have to use it to keep us in a tight box, but it can give us general timelines and general descriptions. And my favorite way to use astrology is to continue to trust my own intuition, see the feelings that come up, sit with the feelings that come up. And if ever I feel just really tired or really worn down or just not in the mood to do something today, I'm always just curious about my own personal chart or the transiting planets. And I usually look up one or the other or both. And I just looked mine up recently and I'm like, why am I I feel like I'm on the verge of some huge change. And I'm also just so tired. Granted, I have been really pushing myself to get these videos out every single day and keep up with the momentum of everything. But I'm so tired. And then I looked at a lot of the transiting planets, and we've got so many planets at the end of Pisces at 29 degrees. So it's a culmination point. Of course, I'm craving rest. And if you're tired and you're sick right now too, we have to allow ourselves to take that rest, which is what I've been trying to do, and just putting less pressure on myself. If my video doesn't get out at 2:00, what's the big deal? If I skip a day, I'm sorry, but just trying to honor my own cycles. And that is also why I made the moon calendar for you as a tool to help people with their own personal astrology charts and their own personal cycles. So this moon calendar is going to tell you how to look up the planets in how to look up your own transits and how to see where the moon, the current moon, is where it is transiting in your own chart. So for example, just again, using myself as an example, when the moon is in Aries, it's in my 4th house. So technically Aries is the time to start something new, to take action on something. But for me, a lot of times, because it's in my 4th house of rest and self-care, a lot of times I'm feeling like that's the day that I need to take to relax, or just, F around and watch TV all day, or call up a friend and watch movies with them, or do something mindless that day. Because that's my personal cycle. So not only is it a combination of the Aries energy of starting something new, because I'm practicing self-care in preparation for the next, wave of videos I'm going to make, or the next wave of whatever it is I'm doing in my life. And So all that to say, the moon calendar is a great way to start learning your personal cycles. And then by learning your cycles, you can also plan things around your cycles. And then what I always do, what I've been doing for years, which has been so helpful for me, is to understand the moon phases. I don't like to start new things past the full moon because they don't really stick, because the energy is winding down. So I don't schedule a brand new business meeting at the end or after a full moon. If I'm really interested in starting something new with somebody, I'm going to plan that business meeting in the first week of the month when the moon is new till it's the first quarter moon. And if they have to wait, they have to wait. But that's been so helpful when it comes to launching like podcasts, launching business stuff, setting up meetings with people, going on a first date. Don't try to start that stuff at the end of a moon cycle, because a lot of times people are feeling like they want to revert back into their own energy field, so it's not a time to connect. So understanding when the moon is full, when the moon is new, when it is a first quarter, a third quarter, and understand the progression of the energy as it progresses to consciousness, and then as it slips back into the unconscious when it's time to rest and reflect again. Understanding the natural cycles so you can start understanding why your life is playing out the way it is. And again, maybe astrology is not, the end all be all for everyone, but it is for me, and it's helped me make sense of the world. And it makes sense to me because we literally live in a dome, whatever we live in, whether it's literally a dome or like a sky and space is all the way out there. But I mean, since ancient times, we've looked up to the stars, whether that is the 12 Greek gods, religion and the 12 apostles and Jesus Christ, if that is astronomers calling them planets, are the planets portals? I don't know. All I know is they work for me. They make my life easier. I'm very passionate about this stuff. I love to teach it. I love to learn from it. And I love knowing that I don't have to, control things too hard. And it helps me practice acceptance. So acceptance for why something is the way it is now. And it shows me opportunities for changing it. So it's like, at the same time that it teaches me not to rail against something that I'm having a hard time accepting, like don't do that, because the universe will just come through and it's what's going to happen is what's going to happen. So in a way, there are a lot of events in our life that are fated. However, we have flexibility when it comes to how we experience them, when it comes to what story are we going to tell about them, when it comes to like how we're going to look at something. So I may not be able to change the fact that I'm a Libra sun and the themes I'm learning in this lifetime are Scorpio, Sagittarius, and if I live long enough, then eventually to Capricorn and Aquarius, because those are the evolution of my sun sign in my soul and my progress planets. So these are all themes of how I relate to the collective, the relationships I'm making with people around me, the impact, Capricorn, what I'm working towards, the impact I'm going to have on the world. Currently, I'm Sagittarius. That is the teacher, that is sharing of ideas with a wide audience. So you can see how I'm literally living out my purpose right now. And when I stopped trying to fight it, it gave me a lot of peace. And that's what I hope to bring for other people too when I do readings, to just show people, give them some peace of mind, realize like, yes, this is your destiny, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing that we have a destiny that we can't control. It's just, it can be exciting because there's always, good things, and there's, like I said, lower expressions of this stuff too, but arming yourself with knowledge gives you power, gives you the opportunity to take more control over your life. Ultimately, as much as an oxymoron as that sounds like, my life is controlled by the stars. However, I'm going to have control in how I experience those lessons because I know about it, so I can make informed decisions coming from a place of knowing. So I hope that this has been helpful and that you may consider digging deeper into your own astrology chart, and not, at the same time that you dig deeper, also not over-identifying with specific labels that you may have been giving yourself because you didn't know any better. So hopefully you're inspired to go on the fun journey that is learning about your personal blueprint. And if you need somebody to guide you, I'm happy to do personal readings. All that information is in my description. And I just released my December moon calendar for 2025. I'm coming out with them every month. They are 11/11 currently. And you can also download the November one for free if you want to see the structure of it and get an idea of whether or not you want to purchase it. So even if you just get the November one, even though November has passed, you can still use it as a tool to, you know, to look at events that have already passed and, you know, start experimenting with it. Like, is that how something played out? Like, what was I doing this day? Was that a Pisces moon? Yeah, I guess it was tired, or maybe you weren't. I don't know. But anyways, all that stuff is there for you to help you learn and grow and be a conscious creator of your life. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys in the next one.